What else? Oh, the West has fallen, though. Let me tell you that. The West has fallen.
She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will finally face off in a debate on September 10th.
I think it would be a disappointing debate if Kamala Harris can't do the one thing that Joe Biden couldn't do and that Hillary Clinton couldn't do, which was grab the vibes.
Here's a look at the debate tactics.
What?
Be a disappointing debate if Kamala Harris can't do the one thing that Joe Biden couldn't do and that Hillary Clinton couldn't do, which was grab the vibes.
Here's a look at the debate tactics most used by Harris and Trump and what a champion debate coach thinks they need to do to win.
Gish Gallop is a tactic of argumentation where instead of just arguing one or two things, you argue several items because it's harder for your opponents to answer them.
This is Todd Graham. He's coached college debate teams to 5 national championships, and he's talking about a technique Trump frequently uses called Gish Gallop.
It's considered a fallacy of argumentation because you're just throwing a lot of things up against the wall to see what sticks, but you're not really defending any of those things.
We built the greatest economy in history, the dumbest deal perhaps I've ever seen in the history of deal making. I had the best environmental numbers ever.
And so that enables you to do a little bit more of Gish Gallop because you're not talking about specific policies. Specific policies take time to get into.
Whether Trump uses it intentionally or not, he's very good at it.
Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. And they like me more than just about any of them. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan, he should have fired those generals. Israel would have never been invaded.
Chat, I will not defend this under any circumstance, okay? But I must say, chat, after this Aiden stream, something I realized, chat, is that this guy is a absolute generational yapper. Brother, it is the yapperest of the yappers, brother.
The whole world is
he
blowing
starts,
up
he doesn't
under him.
stop.
He had a very short answer to the question that wasn't specific, but then talked about things that were similar
I don't even think he's listening to the question, to be honest with you.
A lot of criticisms of his opponent out, so I thought that was a very successful use of it.
In his reply, Biden tries to address every element of Trump's Gish Gallop.
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first.
He's fallen into Trump's trap. When you hear a Gish Gallop like this from Trump, you just think, oh, how dare he say that about me? I'm going to answer that. Well, he's how dare they said about 4 things. You're never going to get through all of those.
Iran attacked American troops. We got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. They've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
One of the problems debaters have, this is all the way from middle school, high school to college, to political debaters and presidential debaters. They do not like letting things go unanswered. And you have to train them. Let it go.
That's kind of like me, though, for real.
To combat Gish Gallop, Graham says organization and focus are key.
Okay, Donald, I know you're into big diversion tonight, anything to avoid talking about your campaign.
If I'm Kamala Harris, I would be reminding everyone what the question is. The question was this, here's my answer.
September 10th will be Kamala Harris's first one-on-one presidential debate.
Yeah, that would also be a mistake, I feel like. The public doesn't actually give a fuck. Imagine thinking that the public remembers that or puts that into account. Dude, they will just listen to if the yapper Andy go on a yapathon, okay, about how much some country likes him, how much he's doing good, how much things are gonna run well, and that's it.
September 10th will be Kamala Harris's first one-on-one presidential debate. Graham says her style reflects that.
I think it is currently emerging. 4 years ago, her style was very laid back. When she debated Mike Pence, she had a little bit more assertiveness and aggressiveness, and I think that's what she's building on now.
Being assertive is a tactic she used in the Senate, where she was known for sharp, direct questioning.
Can you think of any laws that give government the power to make decisions about the male body?
They have not asked me to open an investigation, but...
Perhaps they've suggested?
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted?
I don't know.
Inferred? You don't know. Okay.
It's a tactic she brought to the debate stage in the 2020 election cycle.
Let's be really clear. In our America, no one should have to work more than one job to have a roof over their head and food on the table. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Old school, if women came across as assertive as a man, they wouldn't be seen as assertive. They were seen as aggressive. New school is we're much more apt to be like, no, you have a right to be as upset as anyone else.
Well,
so
that's
I don't
true.
think we have to keep playing the Hillary Clinton game, which is she had to be perfect.
It's conceivable that somebody
Sir,
came
I
up to me.
have just a few.
Well, you let me qualify it. If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be
and
honest.
I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
Are you aware of any communications with other Trump campaign officials and associates that they had with Russian officials or any Russian nationals?
I don't recall that.
She's really found her rhythm and who she is, but she does not like being interrupted.
Well, let's get but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Yeah, but
speaking.
When she was interrupted.
yeah, but last debate though they didn't allow that. They muted the mic and whatever, right? Which actually can be abused. They can abuse the fuck out of that. The fact that they're muting, that they speak in real life, so that to the viewer it looks like, wait, why is the speaker stop? Why did you stop talking? Was it because he's being interrupted in real life? But not in the mic, so now it looks like he's going schizo. I'm not kidding. That's a major point, though.
I'm speaking.
When she was interrupted by Pence, she would just say, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. But you can only say that so many times if your opponent chooses to keep interrupting you. And after you've said it 2 or 3 times, it loses its intensity.
One way to avoid interruptions is by muting microphones. In Trump's June debate with Biden, the microphone was only live when it was that participant's turn to speak. ABC News, which is hosting the September 10th debate, said they will follow the same rule.
That's what I said.
Most debaters will want to interrupt once or twice. So when it was Mitt Romney debate,
Chat, this is something that you think is a good thing, and I think after really thinking, I sat down and I thought about this for about a couple minutes. It's not a good thing. It's not. Because if somebody does an interruption, right, and it alters it, they should be reprimanded, but it should show the public this person's being a fucker. The problem with this is that the interruption is still happening because in real life, they hear them and it disrupts their speech and train of thought, right? But the viewer doesn't really feel that they're being deceived. That's the problem.
debating against Barack Obama, they might have interrupted once or twice.
Hold on a second.
Mr. President,
The only solution to this is to give him a muzzle, like a dog, and the muzzle opens up when he's going to speak, right? Otherwise, it gets closed. That's the only way that they need to put on the muzzle.
still speaking.
That's fairly normal. We didn't have to make rules about that in debate. But when Trump came along, and you remember the Republican primary debates when they would have 10 people?
Or a bark collar. They go, ah! As soon as they interrupted, zzz, like that.
On stage,
Now
and
we're
it was
talking.
just chaos.
That would work.
Great television, but completely chaotic, right? And so that's what we're trying to get away from. I think the muted microphone is going to work better for both sides.
Yeah, this guy's wrong.
Are you
Sorry.
ready to elect Kamala Harris, our next president of the United States of America?
After President Biden dropped out of the race in the aftermath of his...
The only thing, Chad, okay, let me tell you, okay? Unfortunately, we live in the real world, and consequences is the only thing that makes things move. If they are given, let's say they interrupt, they are given a red light or whatever. After 3 red lights, they're done. They lose points, or next time they don't get to do a rebuttal. They lose their next rebuttal if they get 3 red lights or whatever. If you interrupt, you get a consequence because you shouldn't be able to interrupt ever.
Race in the aftermath of his June debate against Trump, all eyes will be on how Trump and Harris perform on September 10th.
There are many people who are just looking for the feels. They want to see how the candidate feels, how it feels to be supportive of that candidate. Trump, everybody always says, well, he needs to be more specific. He's not going to get into a lot of specifics, but he could just do a little bit more, right? He knows he's going to say that Harris and Biden have been terrible on the economy. So just pick one issue of the economy, whether it's inflation, et cetera, and go a little deeper on that is all I'm asking. If Kamala Harris doesn't come away from this debate with people going, that was awesome, then she probably didn't do what she wanted to do. Her answers are going to be fine. That's not the problem. The problem is she going to get people motivated? I think she can be excellent if she keeps that calm demeanor, but still is aggressive when she needs to.
Well, I think they should hire this guy and
Democrat. Yeah. Setting the politicians aside, what do you respect?
Guys, who even is this guy?
Harris Valzizi.
Yeah. Setting the politicians aside, what do you respect most about people who lean left, who are Democrats themselves or of that persuasion, progressives, liberals, and so on?
Well, look, I respect the fact that everybody's in there. And, you know, to a certain extent, life is what you do while you're waiting to die, so you might as well do a good job. I think in terms of what's happening now, I think, you know, we have a chance to save the country. This country's going down. And I called it with Venezuela. I called it with a lot of different countries. And this country's going down. If we don't win this election, the election coming up on November 5th is the most important election this country's ever had. Because if we don't win it, I don't know that there'll be another election. And it's going to be a communist country. We're close.
There's a lot of people listening to this, myself included.
What? I don't even know what he answered. What even was that? They're in there?
And
themselves or of that persuasion, progressives, liberals, and so on.
Well, look, I respect the fact that everybody's in there. And, you know,
what?
To a certain extent, life is what you do while you're waiting to die, so you might as well do a good job.
I don't know what that even means.
I think in terms of what's happening now, I think, you know, we have a chance to save the country. This country's going down. And I called it with Venezuela. I called it with a lot of different countries. We are going...
Bro, I don't even endorse any candidate. I don't give a fuck. I think the whole thing is brain dead.
To not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Former President Donald Trump and
Wait, what? And hospitality?
Service and hospitality workers.
Former President Donald Trump.
Okay. Or ban sub minimal wage in restaurants and shit like that. How about if somebody can get tips, right? You don't lower their salary, right? Where it could be under the fucking minimum salary, like it is in a fuck ton of restaurants and shit. That's what it is.
Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris
That's
are
what it
both
is.
campaigning on this idea of cutting taxes.
Guys, you cannot ban tips. It's not a thing that really can happen in the real world, okay? Because in the real world, it's something that people do in a lot of things, okay? What you can do is it starts changing the culture. Changing the culture. How about that?
On tips, which many policy experts say
violates some pretty basic principles of economic theory, some pretty basic principles of tax policy. I think you'd be really hard-pressed to find a professional economist who would say that this policy is well designed.
Experts warn this policy could help employers more than workers, increase the federal budget deficit, and even accelerate tipping culture. Here's why. Right now,
yeah, they should ban automated messages
and even
for
accelerate
tips.
Tipping culture.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a thing. Like it should be if you want a tip, you can click tip more or whatever, right? But this shouldn't be there. You shouldn't ask the person to get out of a tip rather than being automatic. Sorry, I know this. I know. I'm rich and blah 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 blah. Okay, and I get it. But if they do both things, both that and fix the minimum wage, right? So that people aren't under the minimum wage, because as you know, if you work in some restaurant or some bar, that it can happen that they'll pay you less than minimum wage, right? Because they know you make tips and you make way more than your normal salary just on tips or whatever. Is what it is. Ban that and ban this. Boom, problem fixed.
Here's why. Right now, tips are treated as income and are subject to federal income, state, and payroll taxes.
Income taxes are what we think of as your taxes, the federal tax return, the 1040s. Payroll taxes go toward Social Security and Medicare.
The Trump campaign hasn't released the details of its plan yet. The Harris campaign says its policy would only exempt tips from income tax.
This could be, $150 billion over a decade, which is not the largest tax break out there. There's certainly plenty of other things that are just as large. But, we're in a situation where the U.S. is running regular deficits these days, and there's a lot of concern about the country's fiscal future.
Both candidates are pushing this tax policy to try to win Nevada, a swing state with the highest concentration of tipped workers.
When I'm president, you are the ones I will be fighting for, and I'll be fighting for you very hard every single day.
But this policy would only be available to about 3% of the U.S. workforce, or roughly 4 million people. And not even everyone in that 3% would actually benefit, because more than a third of tipped workers earn so little that they already don't pay federal income taxes.
The standard deduction is the amount of money that you can make without having to pay any taxes at all. For 2024, it's $14,600 for an individual and $29,200 for a married couple.
Tipped workers are also more likely to be teenagers and young adults under 25.
I think a lot of people rightly feel a lot of sympathy and support for people who work in what are, hard, grueling jobs in the service industries. The problem is the policy in practice, it won't achieve what I think we would like it to.
One of the issues economists have with the policy is that it would create unfair imbalances among low-wage workers.
One of the ways to make taxes fair is to make sure that people of the same income level are paying approximately the same amount of taxes. And in this case, you really wouldn't be doing that. So for example, if you took a delivery worker who delivered food, they probably get tips. And so they would qualify for this tax benefit. If you took a delivery worker who delivered packages, they usually don't. So they wouldn't get a tax benefit. But I can't think of a good reason why you would want to give a tax break to the person who delivers food, but not to the person who delivers mail.
Tipped workers represent a small...
Wait, because some of the tipped people, they get paid less than minimum wage, no? They get fucked over. The people that deliver packages, I don't think they can be paid under minimum wage, right?
Percentage of those earning hourly wages, so the majority of low-wage workers wouldn't benefit from this tax cut. Some experts say employers would actually stand to gain the most from this policy. Right now, employers are required by law to pay tipped workers $2.13 an hour in wages. But if workers actually stand to gain the most from this policy. Right now, employers are required by law to pay tipped workers $2.13 an hour in wages.
See, chat. I told you guys this the whole video. This is a real thing.
But if workers don't earn enough in tips to get them to the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, the employer has to pay the difference.
This would basically be a subsidy for that.
That is so fucking brain dead, dude. Because tipping generally shouldn't be a thing, because it's making a problem, and then people find a solution, and now these guys are like, well, we have a solution for the new problem that we're making now. It's like you're increasing the fold on the problem, or just fix it by just paying people the minimum wage. Like, pay them a fucking livable wage, dumbass, right? And then if people tip them, they get an extra. But they deserve that extra because they were given that by the person.
An hour, the employer has to pay the difference.
What they deserve from your behalf, you ask them to do service, just serving. They serve, you pay them what they deserve. If they do better, the customer gives them what they think they deserve extra. Everybody pays what they deserve. But of course, restaurant owners go, nah. They're getting too much out of that deserve a slice. So we're lowering hours to under what they deserve. Fuck you guys. What a stupid thing. Ban that shit.
This would basically be a subsidy for that part of tipped workers' income. If you create this subsidy, what you do is reduce the pressure to raise wages. It would push more of the responsibility for paying people for the work they do onto the customers directly rather than the employers who are supposed to be footing those bills.
This leads to another concern, that it would result in a culture of even more tipping. According to
what?
Onto the customers directly rather than the employers who are supposed to be footing those bills.
Exactly.
This leads to another concern, that it would result in a culture of even more tipping. According to a Bankrate survey, many Americans view tipping negatively, and 35% think tipping culture has gotten out of control. Many policy experts worry this tax break would incentivize other industries to adopt a tipped model.
When you give someone a tax break for something, you're really encouraging.
Dude, it's also social pressure for no fucking reason, dude. Oh, by the way, I clicked 3 buttons on this registering machine, okay? Now, the machine right there, right there, it says 20%. You're gonna click OK and then next. Right? You're gonna click it. And then you have to go, okay, yeah, but I don't think you deserve 20% for clicking the button, but I kind of want to give you 0%, to be honest with you. You go, no, I'm not doing that. There's a social pressure. It's weird as fuck. It's weird as fuck.
Part of the economy, right? And as a rule, I don't think we really want to encourage people's wages to be based on things like tips. There's so many ways that we could be helping people in the service industry, and this seems more like a soundbite.
No tax on tips. Do we like that?
There's also some concern among economists that higher income professionals like hedge fund managers and lawyers could structure their compensation in ways to try to take advantage of this tax break. The Harris campaign says its policy would include income limits to avoid these types of abuses. The Trump campaign hasn't said if its plan will include these types of guardrails. Despite these red flags, this idea is gaining momentum in Congress.
I intend this coming week to introduce legislation exempting tips from federal income tax.
Senator Ted Cruz's bill has gaining momentum in Congress.
I intend this coming week to introduce legislation exempting tips from federal income tax.
Senator Ted Cruz's bill has no income cutoff and would provide a 100% deduction on federal income taxes for any earnings from tips.
I certainly wouldn't expect this legislation to pass standalone. I think you might see it slip into a larger tax bill, and one of those is going to be on the table.
Until a couple of months ago, this was a very low-profile idea, not something that candidates or lawmakers are really talking about. But now that you've got Vice President Harris and Donald Trump talking about it, it's got that kind of bipartisan agreement. We'll push this forward. We'll put it on the table in some way in 2025. It's maybe not the most, pristine.
Chat, what about money laundering, though? What if all you do is just have fake customers come in every day, right? Every 60 minutes, you get a couple that comes in, and they always tip $200 every time. Bing, 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 the whole day. $2,000 a day in untraceable cash that's tax-free? Ooh, I don't know about that. That sounds kind of dank, no? Well, that's like the easiest way to do money laundering at that point. Am I wrong? I mean, report it. They would own if you own the business, you can really make it a fucking money laundering machine. How am I wrong? Somebody sells drugs, makes $200 profit, takes the $200, goes to the restaurant that he owns, hires some people, some friends or whatever the fuck, come in, they get a $3 fucking hamburger, $200 tip, boom, guy puts that in. Taxes, tax-free, money in, money out. Dunzo. Over. Problem?